Hello and welcome to the Mill. I am one of your hosts, Dusty, and with me is Carol. And we thought this week that we would go ahead and talk Gen Con since Carol and I are both coming back from it. So I'm going to go ahead and pass off to her and we can get started.
Hello, everyone. So yes, both Dusty and I got to attend Gen Con this year, though from very different perspectives. I was just there having fun and kind of checking in with the booth. And Dusty was working the MeepleSource Stonemaier booth. So we thought it'd be kind of cool. We could talk about new Stonemaier products and kind of show you our different perspectives, talk some games. So Dusty, do you want to start off and kind of tell people what it was like working at the Stonemaier MeepleSource booth? And then I can show off some of the new products that I got at least. And I don't know if you have any other ones that you saw there.
Yeah, sure. As Carol mentioned, the last couple of years, I volunteered for MeepleSource, and they typically partner with Stonemaier Games, and it's usually kind of a joint booth where part of it is Stonemaier stuff, part of it is MeepleSource stuff, and all of it's good stuff. But so this year was no different. This year, the big product was Expeditions. Both we had the Ironclad and the Standard Edition. And what none of us expected was to sell out in the very first day. Like everything was gone on day one, and that kind of left Alex and Dave, probably Suzanne, like just scrambling to try and find copies of product that we could go ahead and pull in from Stonemaier warehouses nearby. And we did ultimately find more of the Standard and the Ironclad, and we brought it in and kind of broke it up into days. But even with that being said, there was not a day that we were not sold out of Expeditions like within the first hour. It was absolutely crazy. Let's see. There was also, so Jamie mentioned in the newsletter, I think it went out to a couple of different places, champions and to ambassadors, letting them know that there is a new Expeditions playmat. And we'll show that off here in just a second. But Jamie shared a picture, and this was we had some mats at Gen Con from the initial print run, and that was just kind of to see how things looked, if it was going to be good. So and probably a little bit on extra, because if they were just doing just a single, kind of a print, see how it's going to go. I can't imagine they'd print 30 or 40, but I think that's what we ended up with. And Jamie had MeepleSource break it up into, we'll sell 10 a day. But honestly, things were going so, I'll say, good with sales, although like if you came by the booth after the first hour and wanted something, it wasn't very good for you. But Jamie wanted to just like, we'll sell 10 of the mats a day. Ultimately, what we ended up doing after that first day was just on Sunday saying, we're going to do a lottery. And so the first 100 people or whatever that are here, we'll go ahead and hand out cards that have a number on it, and then we'll draw a number, and if your number is drawn, then you'll have the opportunity to get a mat. And aside from that, the new products were the Rolling Realms promos. And so let's see if I can get these right. We had definitely we had Lost Ruins of Arnak. You got them right there. Yes. Okay. Millennial Blades, Role Player. And as soon as you said that, I was like, I got at least 3 of them. And then what?
Arnak.
There was Arnak, Lost Ruins of Arnak. Yes. So those 3, and then we got the Ryan.
The Risky Realms.
Risky Rewards.
Risky Rewards.
Yes. That one. I haven't had a chance to play the final version, but I did play test it, and I really liked kind of what that added to the game in terms of like, yeah, okay, you can go ahead and get a couple of pumpkins right now, but you have to pay them back by the end of the game, or there's a cost. And so the Risky Rewards helps get you going right away, but you definitely need to keep track of those resources and how much time you have left to make sure you're not paying for it on the other side of it.
Yeah. So as I said, I was lucky enough. I got the playmat for one. So you won't be able to see all of it, but this gives you an idea of how huge this is.
Yeah, like a 3x3.
I think I could use this as a blanket.
You could.
Yeah, I really could use this as a blanket. Yeah, and the other side has the hexes on it, so you can kind of choose either way. I've actually started using just the normal side for any game. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty awesome. But yeah, I was lucky enough to get one of those at Gen Con. And then we also have, so I have the Risk Rewards, which are pretty cool. It's a kind of a mini expansion. So I'll kind of try to put these up by the camera. But there's these different types of rewards you can do. This says it kind of gives you a kickstart. You just have to be able to pay stuff back later. So yeah, that was an early Discord. Actually, Dusty was saying how he play tested some, and a bunch of us early on in the Stonemaier Discord got a chance over voice chat to kind of do some play testing with this one. And honestly, it gives you just that little bit more flexibility that I really enjoy. So yeah, I highly recommend the Risky Rewards kind of mini expansion. And then we won't go into the other ones as much. I'm sure Molly is, as our expert Rolling Realms mill person, will give you a little bit more insight. But there's Millennium Blades, kind of give you a little idea. And then Arnak, I haven't even opened this one yet. And Role Player. So yeah, all of those were introduced at Gen Con. And then weren't there some new meeples that MeepleSource was doing, Dusty, for expeditions? And then were there a couple new Wingspan birds?
So there may have been new Wingspan birds. I'm really unfamiliar. At this point, they've branched out. Originally, it was, they did European birds when the European expansion came out, and then Oceania birds when that came out. But ultimately, they decided, there's all this excitement for all these other, areas that they haven't got to yet and could still be a few years down the road. So they decided to start bringing in birds from all over. So I do think that there was a new player marker this year. I don't know. I know talking to Chris Landon, one of the co-owners of MeepleSource, he mentioned that every year he goes, I think we've made enough bird meeples. And then he sees another design and he's like, no, we got to do more. So yeah, that was one of them. But yeah, the new expeditions, basically the fancy meeples that they did for Scythe. They had two different ones for Scythe. They also did one for expeditions, and I really like some of the art. Some of the art that was chosen for the meeples. Like, I think it's the blue worker. He looks like a plumber. He's got like a toolbox and he's going somewhere. So that one I felt like it was a little bit off, but the corrupted worker that you can actually see the tentacles that are all over it, I thought those were really, really cool. And they are considerably larger than the meeples that come in the game. And so I'm not sure how ultimately that fits inside the box once. And if Jamie mentioned he's working on the first expansion, if that ends up being produced, I'm not sure how those might fit in the base game, but they are certainly cool. They are certainly deluxe. And yeah, so they were running a little bit of a special. They were a little bit cheaper to get it at Gen Con. But, honestly, the biggest surprise for me at the booth was how many people were confused by Rolling Realms. Like, it seemed like we had quite a few people that thought that the Rolling Realms packs were expansions for whatever, like a mini expansion or promo for whatever game was listed there. And so someone had bought a Rolling Realms and came back later in that day and they're like, where's the QR code for this? And we're all like, what do you mean? And I guess there's a game that has the QR codes as part of the gameplay. And so there's a little bit of confusion there. I don't think that's anything Stonemaier would necessarily encounter, not having a storefront, and everyone going to the web store probably pretty much knows what they're picking up. But in terms of actually having a storefront, I'm beginning to wonder if maybe retailers don't get this question often. It's just the first time we encountered it, or at least I encountered it at the booth. But definitely those new Rolling Realms were there's a lot of interest, especially in the last ruins of Arnak.
Very cool. Yeah, I have not, between Gen Con and just general life, I have not had a chance to play those yet. I'm really looking forward to that one. So I did pick up the new Arnak expansion, which is currently set up on the other side of this camera. So I'm planning on diving into that solo. So I'm excited. So I'll have to do both of them now. So I know you were doing a lot of work with the booth, Dusty. What was kind of either a highlight of the show for you, or maybe some games that you played. I'll let kind of you go first, then I can kind of say maybe a couple of mine too.
Yeah. So yeah, I worked a lot. Like when you're volunteering for these booths, I think it's pretty average to expect you're going to be working 6 to 8 hours, especially if they're taking care of you with a pass and a hotel. So yeah, working about 6 of the hour. So I definitely could have made plans to go see a show or to go do a play or something like that. It just felt like I was just going to stay in the booth because honestly, in crowds that big, like it is a little bit overwhelming for me. And I don't know if it's like beyond what it is overwhelming for other people, but so like I actually look forward to going in and working and talking about the things that we enjoy, the stuff we talk about here on the mill. So that actually is a bit of a relief for me, except for on the voice, which for definitely several days after, even the fact that MeepleSource provides like mic packs so that we can talk and have our voice projected, it's still, your voice is still raw for talking 6 hours a day straight. But I think the coolest thing that I think everyone, if you really do, if you really do like the hobby and you like that Gen Con experience, I think it's probably worth volunteering at least 1 year with an exhibitor pass, that so you can see what it's like on the inside. Because one of the highlights for me is just always how fast, like at Sunday, they're like, all right, it's 4 o'clock, everyone, have to go home, but you can't stay here. When they make that announcement that it's time to clear out of the hall, like I took pictures this year, like at 4:10, here's what the MeepleSource, or here's what the MeepleSource booth looked like at 4:20, at 4:40, at 5 o'clock, and just how quickly that entire vendor hall comes across. Now I understand that's not exciting from a board game hobby necessarily, from that regard, but like for me, that's always something that's very interesting to see. In terms of games that I played, I really didn't get a chance to play much this year, yet I think this was my favorite Gen Con ever. Usually I'm going through this almost this period for like a week or two after I come home for Gen Con where I'm like, no one talked to me. I don't want to no one asked me if I'll be back next year. I need time to like decompress and get over that crowd or whatever. But this year was very easy to say, if you need me next year, I'll be back. Which for me is a very big thing. In terms of the games that I played, it was just 2. It was like 3, I guess. One of them was like a demo that one of the booths was handing out. And if you took a picture of you playing the demo, then they give you the full copy of the game at the booth. And it was just a little it was called This Is Not a Hat. And I learned after being in the convention space all day, my memory is completely shot. So I think of the game of memory, there's probably at that point 4 squares out on the board, and I'm still like, I don't know what's where. So that was one of the games I played. One of the games I played was Meager, who made the expansion Viticulture World. He has a new game that he has signed to. I'm going to draw a blank on the publisher, but it's called Ross. And as I understand it, in talking to Meager, it is a dance of love, and it's something that's very important to his culture. And part of the game is this the table presence is amazing because it's got interlocking gears, kind of like I don't know why I even tried guessing, remembering, but interlocking gears, and you're trying to match dice color that are on this rotating thing. You're trying to match the pips on the dice, so like you can have an orange one and a blue one, that would be a love connection. Or as the gear in the center turns, the other one's turn as well. And so the next one, you might have an orange die and an orange die, and that's a love connection. But you're trying to match your dress, and you're trying to match these sticks that are a part of the dance. And just the way that he ties in the theme, that was definitely a highlight for me. It was so much crunchier than I expected. And he told me, well, I mean, is this really any heavier than Wingspan? And I thought, the viticulture world difficulty is starting to make a lot of sense. You know, we've heard people talk about it's so hard. I think Meager is just probably a genius. And so he's like, this is easy. Your kids can play. And I'm like, my kids might be able to play, but I can't. They're smarter than I am. So, yeah, oh man, it's so beautiful. I cannot wait for this to be available and to like actually be able to sit down with a clear head and not like just completely destroyed from, you know, the weekend, and give it a shot, because I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be really cool. Oh, and there was like, he had QR codes on there that you could scan and it would play the music of the dance, because there's 3 rounds and every round has a different tempo. So the idea is on a 1 tempo song, then your dice that's just a single pip, that they're really good at dancing that dance. Whereas, you know, when they get to the 3 tempo song, you want the 3 dice to score that you have, because they're really good at that tempo. And so there's all these different conditions, and it was so clever, so smart. I swear I don't understand how these game developers, their brains even work. It's amazing to me. So that was definitely a highlight, getting to see Meager's new game. And then I got to play like a big social deduction game called Blood on the Clock Tower, and I'm never going to be able to do this story justice, because I've tried since, and it just, unless you're familiar with Blood in the Clock Tower, basically think werewolf, and how everybody has a different role. And the twist on this one, and why this like really made me smile, is because the role, you draw rolls out of a bag. It's a blind draw, and only you and the game master know it. And so I draw out of this bag that I'm the saint. Yeah, okay. So so I'm the saint, and my role there says if I get killed, the team good loses. And so the whole idea of the game, I guess, is there's good villagers, there's evil, there's an imp that comes into town, starts killing the villagers, but when you're killed, you're not like out of the game, you become a tool of the imp. And so the evil team is growing, the good team's trying to figure out what's going on. And then there's also a mechanic that people can just wander in the convention hall and say, hey, can I play? And you can usher them into the game, and you don't know if they're good or if they're evil, but they have powers. So anyway, I spent my game as the saint trying not to arouse suspicion, because if I die, then all the other, you know, good people die. It's game over. So like, I'm trying very hard not to draw suspicion and be, you know, getting people wary of me. But just one night out of the blue, the gunslinger is allowed to kill 1 or 2 people on a whim. Just decided I looked good and killed me. And I was like, no, maybe Team Good didn't lose, because there's an execution phase where you vote on someone to be executed. And so I goes, well, maybe because I wasn't executed, it was just this gunslinger who did his thing, I didn't ruin the game. No, it turns out at the end of the game, where we're all talking, evil won, by the way, but the good team, you know, or we're all standing around afterwards kind of discussing our roles, and I'm like, yeah, I was the saint. And the DM, Mark, he looks at me and he goes, you were the drunk. And the way he said it, and probably the hour of the night and how tired I was, it was just the funniest thing in the world to me. That the whole game, I was thinking I was the saint, and in fact, I was a secret role that only the DM would know. And so I spent the whole game thinking I was a saint. In fact, I was a drunk. And that's why the game wasn't over. But it was silly fun, and it was really cool how many players it accommodated. Like, we had a ton of players there, and then we had people just coming up off the convention hall and asking if they could join, and offering to like hand us tickets. And we're like, yo, it's not an official game. It's just you're welcome to hand them over. We're just going to go spend them somewhere else. You know, that was the joke. But, you know, Mark let a few people join, and made plans for we'll play a game another night, and had people come back that wanted to. And it was just a really good time. Like, even with not having tickets, I know a lot of times after hours, the Board Game Geek hot room is the place to be. But the demo tables for MeepleSource, you know, those stay open at the convention hall all hours. And so like, that was just kind of the thing after dinner, after, you know, 9 o'clock, just meet up at the demo tables and we'll play what we got. And so that was my limited but very enjoyable gameplay Carol, what were some of your highlights? What were the coolest things you saw?
Oh gosh, yeah. I said very different Gen Con experience. This was our third Gen Con, and I usually try to plan a couple events a day, so we have some planned because I know people are like, oh my gosh, Gen Con's all about that vendor hall. We go to play games. I was just thinking in my head, I'm like, I think I had 21, 22 plays over 3 days because we pretty much went home Sunday. And then 18 different games, 14 were new to me. So I had quite the variety, though I think this was the first year where we didn't find one that was like, oh my gosh, we have to buy this. This was amazing kind of experience. But
you were in the Lorcana line?
No. I took pictures of people in the Lorcana line.
That was wild.
Yeah, I don't do lines. My big mom moment was Friday morning when things weren't as crazy to get in the vendor hall when it opened at 10 because people were in the Lorcana line. My husband and I like got in when it opened, walked, and I spent maybe 5 minutes in the boop line to get the Halloween boop. And for my sons who are obsessed with boop. So that was my 5-minute line. That's about what I can take.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is why I signed up for events and did not go near Lorcana.
Yeah, I do think one of these years I want to attend and just play games, just sign up for events. But yeah, I think I don't know which way would work best for me at this point. But yeah, that sounds awesome. What other games did you play there?
So every year, my husband and I, we do the Dice Throne tournament, which is thrown on by Board Crunch. And and one of the things I love about conventions and Stonemaier, I love all the different communities that come with board games. And I love our Stonemaier community. Everyone's really polite. Everyone's nice and open. And just kind of like what you were saying, people just came up to the Stonemaier demo booths because everyone's just friendly. And the Dice Throne community is very similar. So that I think almost every year is one of my big highlights is doing the Dice Throne tournament and just throwing dice for 3 hours. Actually, this year was really fun because I got done early. So I actually got to play a game of Dice Throne with one of the designers and the artist, Manny Tremblay, who is just, yeah, he's just an amazing human being. Like he talks to my son when he does live casts, when he's doing his drawing stuff. And it was really cool. I actually got to play a game with him. So that was kind of one of our big highlights I played 18 different games. Dice Throne, still my favorite game, though I didn't play any Stonemaier ones because I own almost all of them.
Right.
So I didn't need to go there to play them. But yeah, that was probably my favorite play of the con anyways, was still Dice Throne. I love it. They have new stuff coming. So that was probably it. My favorite game and game experience. I did get to try Force Shuffle. Actually, I got to play that with Susanna over with Stonemaier. We're on another Discord and another one of our friends. We got together one night at a dinner and the three of us played Force Shuffle, which is beautiful new little forest game. So definitely recommend checking that one out. That was kind of one of the new ones. Probably my favorite new to me game that I played was Scarface 1920. So that one just finished. I think it's second Kickstarter up this summer. I mean, that's just massive sprawling, but we're originally from Chicago. So the whole like Chicago gangster vibe really comes through. It's super thematic. So we did have fun with that. And that's on Lucas Oil. I don't know if you've had a chance to play at the stadium, Dusty, but playing on the football stadium and the football field, it's just fun. It's cool. You just like look and you're just like, there's just tables of games instead of football. And so that was probably my favorite new to me game. But yeah, I think those were kind of some of my highlights. The vendor hall was insane. I think you said it. You're like, what? Thursday looked like a Saturday.
Yeah.
It was nuts.
It really was. It really was. But yeah, Lucas Oil, that is very cool. Like last year, I don't think Josh and I even wandered over there. My son Josh volunteered with me again this year at the MeepleSource booth. But we did walk over there this year and just kind of show him, what that place looks like over there. Now it was Sunday, so it was kind of empty, but I did 1 year I demoed over there for Van Ryder Games, and it is a different experience there in that big old wide open air and just the playing board games where, you know, the Indianapolis Colts are usually doing their thing. And it's neat to be on the floor.
So yeah, I would say those are probably some of the biggest parts of my Gen Con. I said, for those who are scared of it, I said, that's one of my things. Like, I don't like being crowded in the vendor hall, so I just don't do a ton of it. And there's still plenty of places to play games. We did do the hot games room a couple nights where you just teach yourself the new stuff. So we tried that new Archeo Society, Emerge, Thunder Road Vendetta. One of my other friends found one that we played, so we did that for a couple nights. So yeah, it's the hot games room's a fun time. We didn't even touch the gaming library that's on Lucas Oil Field, but that looked like it. I mean, that is a ton of games, and you're just playing right there on the field. So a lot of other non-crowded, crazy options. So that's always kind of one of our goals of Gen Con, is to not go too much into the vendor hall.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to save you some money too. But yeah, it is. I do wonder if I would, like, if I went there under normal circumstances, like just attending, like how much of the vendor hall I would actually spend any time in, because it is just a crush of people and it's so loud. And I mean, I'm sorry, the amount of board gamers walking around there with their giant board game backpacks, like prepare to get like smacked and knocked around and crashed into. And it's not even like, and I don't think half the time they even realize it. So it's like, don't hold out for like, oh, say sorry about that. But I mean, it's all good, but it is like, I do wonder, you know, I would probably go the route of you and Ben and just like, hey, let me avoid the vendor hall if I can. Although in this year, I came home with no games. I didn't buy a single game. I bought stuff for writing. That's something that I've long done just kind of like for myself, and I used to keep a blog all the time, but the writing has fallen off quite a bit, so I picked up the story engine and the deck of worlds and a couple of expansions to just kind of maybe see if it can't shake loose some of the stuff I'm missing. So I picked that up. My son ended up picking up a couple of just little games that he can take to school with him, but yeah, otherwise, no, I didn't have the usual, here's the haul from Gen Con this year. It's like I got a couple of pins and some writing stuff. Did you guys pick up anything there?
We actually usually don't pick up a lot. But this year we did. This year I got a copy of The Witcher Old World. That was like the big game I wanted to play because I love narrative games. Mm-hmm. And I heard The Witcher Old World was narrative, but not a campaign. So I'm like, oh, maybe I'll get a chance to play it because I already have a bunch of campaigns. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I got The Witcher and I got the new Arnak expansion. So those were like, oh, and Tribes of the Wind. That was one that it hadn't been readily available in the US much, but I pre-ordered that and I pre-ordered the Arnak expansion, so I didn't have to wait in long lines. So once again, don't like lines.
Yeah.
So those were my pickups. My sons asked me to get the Halloween Boop, and my eldest wanted the Sagrada Artisans, the Legacy of Sagrada game.
Oh, I'm looking forward to hearing what you thought about that. It looked like Jamie enjoyed his time with it. So
yeah, he like blew through that, I think, with Megan.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have it. We're going on another vacation here in a little bit, so that'll probably wait till after. But yeah, my 10-year-old really wanted that. He likes Sagrada, so I'm just gonna probably play it 2-player with him. So we'll see. Sounds interesting. It's coloring. Sounds relaxing. I'm all about it.
Yes.
So yeah, that awesome. That pretty much sums up, I think, we don't go crazy with the Gen Con haul. So
yeah, I think it's funny. I always, like, when I wasn't rooming with Josh, like I always ended up in the same room as the people that it was like, oh, hey, you know, I've been saving for the last year, and like I've like so much stuff. And in fact, our roommate from last year, Mark, he had to check out of his room well before his flight this year. So he was like, is anyone staying until Monday? And Josh and I were, so he's like, can I bring my stuff down to your room? And oh yeah, absolutely. And we gave him Josh's key, but he drags like a cart full of games in the room, and he just locks eyes with us, and he goes, I didn't buy too many games, you bought too many games. And that was it.
Oh my gosh, yeah, no, we don't do that as much.
Hey, definitely let me know about that Witcher game though, because I like the narrative games too, and not having it be a campaign, like that sounds like it could be a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, one of our friends on another Discord, like that's him and his wife, that's been like their big game like this summer. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna give it a try. I don't need like there's a version that's like twice as much money that has a bunch of like monster minis. I'm like, nope, just give me the game. I don't care about cardboard. So yeah, I'm looking forward to trying and diving into that one. I think the rule book might be coming on the plane with me.
Yeah. Usually I don't know, some of these games it seems like, you know, the rule book is a mini novel in and of itself. So hopefully it's a good one though. You know, when it's a good rule book, it doesn't really matter if it's a bunch of pages as long as you're able to follow it. But man, sometimes there's some real opaque ones, really difficult to get through.
Yeah. Well, I think that is all of my Gen Con stories, unless you have anything else, Dusty.
Well, a lot of what happens at Gen Con stays at nope, that's not Gen Con, that's Vegas. No, that's all I got. That's all I got this week.
All right. Well, thanks everyone. Hope you have fun con experiences or had a great time at Gen Con. If you played any awesome games recently or at Gen Con, or have some of those awesome haul picks, feel free to put them in the comments.
Looking forward to seeing it. And thanks so much for hanging out with us for just a little bit. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Thanks for watching. Bye.